We all have our holiday traditions. For me, it's eating cheap chocolate out of an advent calendar, hiding a pickle in my Christmas tree, and hearing my mom say, "I just wanted to have a nice Christmas," over the slightest inconvenience. But one tradition has haunted me every year for the past 3 years. And it's a tradition I absolutely didn't intend on turning into a tradition, where I subject myself to an hour and a half of holly jolly torture. I watched the NBC version of the Grinch musical. Call it morbid fascination or a waste of my time, but something just keeps bringing me back to this. The musical, in many ways, was the perfect footnote to the hellscape that was the year of 2020. And rewatching this thing is like walking through the Met. You will always find something new. So in the spirit of giving, I want to share this tradition with you. Or rather, I don't want to be the only one suffering through this anymore, so I'm dragging you into it. So buckle yourself in and get ready for one very disturbing sleigh ride, because it's time to talk about the Grinch musical live. Now, for this year's viewing, I did something a little different. Every other year, I've watched The Grinch live on my TV, and while the television speakers are fine, they don't really make me feel like I'm in the same room as one of the creepiest characters in television history. Thankfully, I think, this year I was able to fully immerse myself thanks to this video's sponsor, Raycon wireless earbuds. Raycon has made a name for themselves thanks to their premium headphones at a great price, earning thousands of 5-star reviews. Now, I've been using the everyday headphones for the past few weeks, and I can honestly see where they're coming from, because these are some of the comfiest headphones I've ever used. I used to be very anti-earbuds just because of how uncomfortable they were, but with these ones, it's like I stick them in, and then I just forget that they're in there. This is one of the best gifts you could get a friend, family member, or heck, even yourself. You can also explore their great tech bundles and get something from their new line of Raycon home and power tech products, including the Magic 180 charging cable and a Raycon faucet filter. Raycon has some of their biggest discounts happening right now, and they're only available until November 27th. Shop Raycon's Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales for their biggest holiday discounts yet. Go to buyraycon.com/WITW to get up to 50% off site-wide. All right. Let's do this. So The Grinch Live is a televised version of the Broadway musical that ran from 2006 to 2007. And it starred Patrick Page as the Grinch. Now, when this thing came out, it did really big business. It managed to beat Wicked's 100-week streak at the top of the box office. So when we open up, we meet our narrator for this show, an older version of the Grinch's dog, Max, who has become very grizzled. It looks like he's been through some shit. Like, he just looks like Jon Snow. So then Max in Chair basically gives us the introduction that you get from the book about all the Who's down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but, you know, then he doesn't follow it up because I guess that's spoiler for what's about to come. You can't say the G word yet. It's like Voldemort. This one, we're focusing on Cindy Lou Who, her dad, her mom, her grandma, her grandpa, her brother. It's like the whole family is here for this trip. And then you get like the first tease of the Grinch, which is like they use the King Kong hand that just comes in from the side. And then we go to our first commercial break. And here is one of the big problems with doing TV musicals like this on network is that when you bring in those ad breaks, it just absolutely kills the momentum. PBS has the one up because they don't run the ads through it, so you're seeing the show as you're seeing it. But with The Grinch Live, you have this great big opening number, and it's like, yeah, I'm so jazzed to be here. And then it's like, all right, let's talk about the new Gillette Labs. Like, you have intermission every 5 minutes, which just doesn't work. So then we come back and Max introduces the other character for this show, which is a younger version of himself. And this is one of the first spots where you can really feel that there's not an audience, which I understand for the time, you probably couldn't have them because this was filmed right in 2020, like during the winter of 2020. But I mean, even if you could have just like piped in some noises, I think that would have gone a long way. Probably it's got to be about 20 minutes into the Grinch musical, we finally meet the Grinch. And oh my God, to follow up Patrick Page, they made the most logical choice and they cast Matthew Morrison from Glee. Something I love so much about this is that if you watch it, you have to go into it knowing that we're just 1 year removed from Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. So when Matthew Morrison got the offer to play the Grinch, he decided, I'm going to model it after Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. So he's lurking around the cave. All of a sudden, he just breaks the fourth wall and he says,
I hate your couch.
Got him. So then he goes off onto this whole song just talking about how much he hates the Who's and how much he hates Christmas. Oh, I hate the Who's and I hate Christmas. And the problem with this is that when he's talking, his voice is so like dark and gravelly at the beginning. He really commits at the beginning, but then it really falls off at the end. But he really tries to make it like foreboding and scary. And then he starts singing and it's so angelic. And it just doesn't work for the character. There's just there's like three things in conflict with Morrison's Grinch that it's just beautiful to watch and to analyze live. And we come back and we're in the house of the Who's. And Cindy Lou Who's like, hey, what about that scary guy? Maybe he's not that scary after all. Can I invite him to Christmas? Can I like make him a present? And her mom's like, no, are you dumb? And so then it goes into this whole song where they just spend about 6 minutes just totally bashing the Grinch. Just hearing how mean they are to the Grinch, it's like, I don't really blame him for being angry at these people. Like, they all are kind of bad people with really big butts. They are dumb, thick Who's. So then after that, we get into the section where the Grinch starts singing about how much he hates noise. And again, it just gave me another reason to be like, yeah, dude, maybe you should steal Christmas. These guys are very annoying. So then Cindy Lou Who, even though her dad really tried to scare her, she gets her friends together and she's like, let's make a sign for the Grinch that says, Merry Christmas, friend. Because why would they write Merry Christmas, Grinch? And so they hold up this sign and then the Grinch looks at it and he's like, what the hell? And in the time that they put up the sign, the R fell off, which it's another thing of like, why are you gluing letters onto your sign? Why don't you just use a marker? Do they not have markers in Whoville? And it says, Merry Christmas, fiend. And then that's where full Joaquin Phoenix Joker comes out. And that's where he decides like, Christmas isn't coming this year. He just pops in out of the frame and he just goes, Christmas, my dear, isn't coming this year. And I don't know what the choice was to do the... Maybe he's pulling a little bit from Hannibal Lecter. I don't know what he was going for. He tries so hard to make this psychotic serial killer Grinch work, but the material just does not ask for that because it's Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. And then this is where the story, whatever little of it there is, really starts to fall apart. The reason that Dr. Seuss wrote The Grinch is because he was suffering with his own disillusionment of Christmas, and he wasn't really in the holiday spirit anymore. And to an extent, the 2000 movie, the Ron Howard movie, really carries this feeling over well and puts it into the character of Cindy Lou who she herself is wondering why she isn't getting into the Christmas spirit like everybody else. And that's really what leads to her singing the song, Where Are You Christmas? Which, oh boy, we're going to get back to that in a second. One of the things that makes Cindy Lou Who so special in the movie is that she doesn't really care about the presents. Like, she feels like there's something more. She doesn't really care what she gets. But in this version, she's like, yeah, I want that rocking horse. Give it to me or I'm going to be sad. And so then the store clerk is just like, come on over and get your Waka Flockas. There's only a little bit of time left. And then everyone's losing their minds and Grandpa is like, no, what really matters about Christmas is the gifts. And so then that song ends, and then all of them really notice. They're like, huh, who the hell is this dude? Because the Grinch is in this store to do like recon. I don't really know what he needs to learn about him. They love Christmas and they're all going to be asleep on Christmas. You've been watching them for 53 years. I think you have all the intel you need, buddy. And then they ask him if he's staying for Christmas, and he says, no, ma'am, I'm just in from Houston. US of A, my last day. And while this line is funny, it just makes me realize the US of A and the fact that nobody questions it is actually a real place. So that implies that there are other countries and like other governments on this snowflake. What is the world outside of Whoville? They invite him to something called the Who Sing. And as soon as that happens, I'm just like, God, I hate these people. Like, can we just speed this along and take their Christmas and maybe don't give it back this time? Maybe actually just keep it. And then we're back in the Grinch's lair. He decides to sing this lament called One of a Kind, where he laments how he's like the only Grinch. It's kind of like if Doctor Who just decided to sing a song about being the only Time Lord. And so while Morrison's been pretty reserved about the Joaquin Phoenix of it all, at this point he just goes full in. And he does the equivalent of like the stare dance, where he's just going all over one of a kind. Ooh-ba-doo-boo. And that's another thing about Morrison's Grinch, is that it's creepy and uncomfortable, but not in a good way. It's just in a way that makes you feel really, I don't know, kind of slimy. It's like there's one spot where he stands in front of the mirror and then he pelvic thrusts to the moon. Merry Christmas. So then here we are. They're on the sleigh and they're going down to steal Christmas. So if you know the book, you know that we're getting pretty close to the end, right? The only problem is that we're only 40 minutes in and this is an hour and a half. So it's like, where are we going to go from here? Because this really is the climax. It's literally the title, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. After you answer this question, I'm going to dip. So then we're finally here. The Grinch and Max fall down the chimney and they're in the house and they're ready to steal the presents and steal Christmas. They finally sing the Grinch song that we all know and love. But not exactly the Grinch song, because then there's just a lot of stuff in the middle of it where he's like, stuff the tree. And he's like, I'm going to take their pudding. And he pulls out pudding that isn't the same pudding that went into the fridge. Which again begs another question. How much pudding is this family eating? So then he does this little like snappy number and he's like, the Grinch, yeah, I got a few problems. And he like takes this thing of milk and he drinks it, and he doesn't actually drink it. And then he like bends over and he just farts. It rubs you the wrong way if you know the history of Dr. Seuss's widow, Audrey Geisel, who, when they did the 2000 Grinch movie, the Ron Howard movie, Geisel had veto power over the script, and she actually rejected the first version because she felt there was too much potty humor. A New York Post article even ran it with Keep the Grinch Out of Pooville, I think is what the headline was. And so to see it come back into this one, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way of like not respecting her wishes with it and just going for really, really lowball humor. They start rocking out again, and then all of a sudden, whoa, it's Cindy Lou Who. She's down here. And Matthew Morrison's like, what were you doing? Were you spying on us? And it's like, no, man. Your bass probably shook her out of bed while you're down here doing your Fosse number. Like, of course she's going to come down. I'm surprised more people didn't come down. And so then they do the classic, oh, this light bulb's broken, I'm going to take it home. And then for no real reason, Cindy Lou Who just breaks into this song basically calling him a sad, lonely guy. And Morrison just says what I'm sure everybody in America felt when this was live, where he says, oh no, it's a ballad. We still got 30 minutes left. Can you please just put the tree up the fireplace? You've been talking about it for 2 commercial breaks now. And then like she ruins the sentimental moment by just being like, yeah, I had a nightmare about the Grinch and his creepy green eyes. And it's like, where did that come from? Just 20 minutes ago, you were hanging up a sign for him saying, Merry Christmas, friend. Like, we never see what changed. And I don't know why all of a sudden she's like, yeah, dude, the Grinch is scary. Stay away from that motherfucker. Morrison's Grinch understandably gets pretty upset and he tries to scare her off, but he does it with an exact copy and paste of the hula hula scene from the 2000 movie. And again, it's just, what is this? What is this Grinch? It's like Jim Carrey, Joaquin Phoenix, Hannibal Lecter, John Travolta. He finally stuffs the tree up the chimney and he tips over the table and he goes, #Grinch, and then flees. And so then we come to the next day and all the Who's come down and surprise, all their presents are gone. Just further cementing that I don't know what this relationship between the Grinch and Cindy Lou Who is. Cindy Lou Who's like, I'm gonna find him and I'm gonna kick his ass. And it's like, what do you mean? What did this guy do to any of you? The show does nothing to make me care about the Who's, because from everything I've seen over this very long hour, they're pretty horrible people. So then we get to the part that I have the biggest problem with, which is the song Where Are You Christmas? Which this wasn't in the Broadway version. They just put it in for the TV taping. It's from the 2000 movie. And what is so beautiful about that song is that it's singing about losing this feeling of the holidays. And so this song is just a great way in the movie for Cindy Lou Who to be like, where is this feeling? Why can't I find it anymore? And it's very pretty. But this version decides to take away any poetry with it and just turns it into the Who's literally singing, where'd my go? Like, you just completely missed the point of what this song is, and you threw it in because you're like, oh, people will recognize it from the radio. So then we fast forward and we're at Mount Crumpet and the Grinch is pushing his sleigh up and he's like, haha, poo poo you Who's. And I think it's worth noting that this isn't the first time that he said poo poo. He said it about 2 other times throughout this. Like, it's basically his catchphrase. Then the thing happens where he looks at Whoville and it's like they're all singing. Cindy Lou Who comes up and is just like, hey, Merry Christmas. You need a friend and all this stuff, which another about face from I'm gonna kick your ass just 2 minutes ago. And then we get to like the part that forever, this has always been the thing that freaks me out about the Grinch and that I wish they just wouldn't really show, is just when his heart grows, because it always looks so painful to me. Morrison treats this like he's going like Jekyll and Hyde confrontation, where it's just, oh God, what's happening? And then they do like this bevel effect where it's just on his chest. And I'm like, that looks so painful. Like, if anything's gonna cause nightmares, that's what's gonna cause nightmares. But his heart grows 3 sizes and miraculously he doesn't die of a heart attack, which it really looks like he was very close to. And so all the Who's come out and they're singing again and they're happy about Christmas. And then the Grinch comes in and he goes, friends, humans, countrymen. And again, for one final time, what are the geopolitics of this place? Because that tells me that the Roman Empire existed, which means that the Roman Empire fell, which means I just broke my streak of going a day without thinking about the fall of the Roman Empire. Thanks, Matthew Morrison's Grinch. And so then they all have their presents back. They're all holding hands and singing. And so what did we learn here? We learned that Christmas really is about possessions.